It is a very big week for Le Mans Ultimate, with a new update which included 2 new cars and an updated tyre physics model, and a big announcement about what the future is going to be like on LMU. So in this video, I'm going to show you 2 races, one each in the new cars, to discuss the new tyre physics model that LMU has. And at the end of this video, stick around because we're going to talk about the exciting parts of the new announcement, which is really securing the future for LMU players. Lots to cover. Let's dive in. So let's start things off in the Lamborghini Huracan GT3. As requested by my 5-year-old daughter, we are in the pink car, the Iron Dames livery, and let's get on with a qualifying lap here. I'm going to talk through a little bit about what I'm feeling with this new tyre model. Now, the main thing with these 5-minute qualifying sessions for the 20-minute races around Spa this week was trying to get in that second flying lap. You had to be out the gate as soon as the qualifying session started, but as you can see, I've managed to get around for a first flying lap into a second, and it really helped as the tyre temperature builds a lot slower with this new tyre model. It was a big advantage to get out for that second flyer. Now we're going to come down the Kemmel Straight here and get down to Le Com on this flying lap. And the main thing about the new tyre model was the reduction in the allowed slip angle of the rear tyre, and that was in a response to the previous tyre model being a case where you could really like drift or slide the car through the corner and create a lot of rotation in the car in that way. Now, the main thing you had to be cautious about as a result in the Lamborghini, which is naturally a very oversteery car, particularly on corner entry, was really getting your braking marker right and trail braking nicely through the corner to keep the rotation going without putting too much steering input early in the turn, which would induce that oversteer. Buhorn was a good example of this. If you got off the brake too quickly and turned in too quickly into that corner, you would immediately lose the rear of the car and spin off into that outside wall. And if you got it right, however, the rotation felt really nice and it was really rewarding. As a result, we come down to Stelvot. This was one of those corners where you had to try and brake a little bit deeper and then try and trail through the corner a bit more, not quite getting it right through this particular lap. And again, coming out of Stelvot as well, a little bit off throttle earlier in the turn to induce some rotation, and then try and get on the power as soon as you can to get up towards Blanchimont here. Now on the second flying lap, you could go through Blanchimont flat in the Lamborghini, and that again, just those little improvements and little advantages by getting that second flying lap in. Down to the final set of corners here, brake nice and deep, try trail all the way to the apex of the corner, and be careful on throttle here out the other side, as you already got a lot of rotation in the car, and adding too much throttle would definitely be causing a spin out of that final corner. Fortunately, we get it all right on that lap. A 2-minute 20.9 actually puts me on pole position for this split 2 daytime race around Spa, and ready to get into the race. So, green light, and we are underway for this race down towards turn number 1, and it's nice and textbook for me here. We hit the brakes, we make the apex, and lots of space around. We very quickly get a nice little gap out of turn 1 here. Now we're going to need to be nice and cautious on this first lap, as the cold tyres are going to play a part in this one. Yes, there are tyre warmers for these beginner series races, but the starting temperature is down, and the tyre will take a lap or 2 extra to come into its operating window. So particularly with the limitation on the rear slip angle, these cold tyre runs are going to be very tricky in LMU going forward. Coming down to Le Com on lap number 1, and we are fortunately going to make the apex here. These were 2 corners that if you got the rotation right, the car really got through there nicely, and it just felt right. It felt very intuitive if you got it right. The only problem is if you push too far like I did there, could very quickly go wrong. Down to Bruxelles for this first lap, and as we come out the other side, things unfortunately are going to go a little bit pear-shaped for me. I get a bit deep into turn 11 here, a bit too much of initial turn on the steering wheel, and we lose the rear end, and around we go. Holding the brakes here, but unfortunately find ourselves in the middle of the track, hoping to not get a whack, and we just get a bit of a glance there from one of the Lexus, and we are able to at least move forward in this race. Looking on the replay, you can see just a bit too hot into that corner. Around the rear goes, no way of saving that at the moment on LMU. Can't catch that sort of slide, and away we go. I'm glad I didn't move backwards here, as I would have collected that other Lexus that decided to go behind. Unfortunately, we can at least point the car forward and keep driving. The recovery will be on, and
and very quickly we catch a bunch of cars which are also having their own dramas here with the new tyre model. Spins out of Stelvot, out of Eau Rouge here on the second lap, and just almost catching that car that was stuck in the shadow there of the trees, just seeing that at the very last moment. Also, a BMW spun out of the last corner, so they're sort of dropping like flies here. A Mustang at the top of Eau Rouge, plenty of drivers having their dramas here with the new tyre model, and we're back to P11 and catching the field here a little bit with this Ferrari up in front, being position number 10, and we're going to see a number of other cars in front of him as well. So potentially a result can be salvaged from this race. We just need to be very careful here with a bit of damage in the suspension as well. Not going to have the optimum car for the rest of this race. Out of turn 1 here on lap number 4, coming down towards Eau Rouge once again. And Eau Rouge now, you definitely cannot take it flat as you were able to, particularly on ACC. The line is more or less the same, but a little bit of a lift here just to get the car rotated a bit. And if you were going flat, you'd certainly catch those track limits. Big crash for the McLaren up ahead. Got it back right out of that one to avoid. And we are then up to P10 as a result of this one. Jumping ahead to 5 minutes and 15 seconds to go, the action is certainly going to heat up for us. We're up to P9, I've got the Dord card number 1 car directly behind me recovering, and a McLaren and BMW up in front as well. We've backed out of this one to get a bit of a run here on this red McLaren, and he gets it wrong over the top of Eau Rouge, and we're able to sneak by, fortunately. I think he's braked going over the top to try and avoid a track cut, but that's going to be enough for us to go through. And in fact, he has picked up a drive-through as a result, so we're not going to have to worry about him for the last part of this race. Looking ahead here at the door number 18 BMW coming through. Look on, definitely some pace on this car at the moment. Just need to find a nice tidy way by. Going to have a little look at the inside at Brussels. Not really a place you can throw the car down the inside, just trying to put him off a little bit. You can see the Lamborghini still rotating much nicer through this corner. I think the front engine car's a little bit harder to get rotated through there. And we come out of turn number 11, a bit more of a run on the BMW as well, so we're going to have a little look at down the inside, see if we can create a bit of an overlap, which not realistically able to do, so braking early, try not to lose the rear of the car here, intentionally run a bit shallow through Pujon to prevent the McLaren behind getting any sort of run on me, and we're going back to now try and chase down this BMW through the last part of the lap. Despite the damage that the car had, coming through campus still felt really nice in the car here. Just trying to be a little bit more patient in the mid-corner as the race went on and the tyres dropped away, and you were certainly able to feel that those tyres dropping away. You couldn't just push the same every single lap, had to make little adjustments each time, and I was able to react to that pretty nicely, I felt, through the races that I did. Now coming out of Stelvot towards Blanchemont, we have definitely got a run here side by side with this BMW. On the outside of Blanchemont though, not exactly the best place to be here. We're going to try and lift to at least try and get through the corner, and we slot in behind, having to run a little bit wide, and we're going to have to run defensive here into the final corner. Although it is the McLaren with this drive-through, it's actually the number 1 car that comes up the inside, and we actually take a bit of a knock on the rear bar there. So I've got now front and rear damage a little bit here with the last few laps of this race ahead of us. Once again, we are going to come out of Stelvot here with a really nice run on this BMW ahead. This Lamborghini is still really nice through the middle part of the lap, and really good run here coming out of Stelvot, and we're going to go down the inside this time. He's left the door open just enough for us, getting it down the inside and putting a nose in front as we are about to enter Blanchemont. Big lift here from me to at least try and make the turn, and that is going to be enough to get through. Really happy to get that move done with only one more lap to go after this one. We're going to run a defensive into the final corner as the number 1 car has a little look around the outside. Get a really big wiggle there as I try and dab the throttle into the last corner, and we're fortunately able to wiggle our way out of the last corner and at least stay in front here with 1 lap to go. And that is where our race is going to finish. A bit of a mess behind has opened up the door to those cars back, and that's taking the pressure off, but ultimately a lot of learning every single lap, every single race about this new tyre model, and the more I drive it, the more I enjoyed it. Even though there was some challenge with those rear tyres, I was able to sort of extract what I felt was good pace from this Lamborghini, and while there's still more to learn about this particular car, I was happy with what I'd learned thus far, and a 7th place was a nice way to get that one finished. So now let's have a look at the Lexus here, and first off, have a listen to that beautiful engine note. It is exactly how that car sounds in real life. When I spied it at Spa a few months ago, they've done a really good job at the sound of this car. Now, the other difference with the Lexus compared to the Lamborghini is obviously where the engine's placed. This being a front engine car, it had a lot more natural understeer, and it felt a lot safer into corner entry as the front engine cars do. Now, that is going to cause some dramas later on, as I'll describe, but focusing on this qualifying lap coming out of the final corner here, I'm going to set what I feel is a pretty decent 2-minute 21.0, not too far off the best lap I'd done in the Lamborghini, and I have driven this car a lot less than the Lamborghini to this point. So we're going to get the green light underway. We're in third place for the start of this race, and with the McLaren on my outside, coming down to turn 1 here, and a decent exit on the inside compared to the Lamborghini. We're going to get a nose just in front, but side by side down towards El Rouge. Hopefully that Lamborghini is going to pull out of it, kind of move over a little bit to de-incentivize him, and he does think better of it. He falls to the back of our little train here, and we're going to get up El Rouge, staying in the third place we started in. A couple of Lexus in front as well, so it'll be a good way to gauge my pace compared to those cars in front. Now, compared to the Lamborghini, you definitely had to focus a lot more on the trail braking as you came into the corners, particularly through Le Com here, making sure you really got those apexes. Use a bit more of the curb than the Lamborghini, but if you got enough of that rotation done early, you could certainly get through here quite nicely. Same here down to Brussels, a lot more patient mid-corner to make sure you keep that rotation in the car, and again down into turn 11 here as well, just making sure that you get the rotation done as early as possible compared to the Lamborghini, which had that natural oversteer. Now, lap number 2, and behind, you'll see in the mirror a big moment for one of the BMWs behind. Got to show it on the replay here, is a real moment as he gets over the bump, losing the rear a little bit, and you just cannot save it. That's sort of the big thing I was finding, is that when you're really on the limit of that tyre grip, particularly that rear tyre grip, if you went over it, there's no coming back. Down into the final corners here on lap number 2, and I am going to have my own moment here. I feel like I get into the bus stop really nicely here, particularly the second part. Good rotation in the car and that confidence to sort of get on the gas, but unfortunately it immediately lets go and we get a bit of that snap oversteer, and we turn it around at the end of lap number 2, losing a lot of places. Now we're going to look at it on the replay here, and ultimately I'm really happy with the line and rotation the car has, but it's ultimately a false sense of security. You're already at the maximum grip of the rotation in the car, and although you feel like you've done all you need to really get on the throttle and maximize the exit, unfortunately as soon as you get over that rear slip angle, around it goes, and that is the end of any sort of decent place in this race. As a result, as you can see, I'm definitely in the pack now, down in 12th position. These Porsches having a really good go at each other. BMW gets involved and helps assist that Porsche around, who is starting to slide out of turn number 1. And a lap later, we've got another moment here, a BMW big slide out of the turn number 1 as well. So just so many drivers really struggling with that last part of the corner, getting on throttle and just exceeding that slip angle a little bit, having those moments. Now we're going to back out to try and get a run on this BMW who's offline through our Rouge. Unfortunately, it's too much of a run. We've got to back it right out and not hit the back of him through onto the Kemmel straight, and that kills all our momentum here as we are coming to try and down the outside of Lacombe, but not enough of an overlap. We come back in, but this is part of the track I was feeling really strong, and once again, for the second part of Lacombe, I feel like I've got the rotation done really nicely, ready to put the power down, and immediately the rear tyre lets go once again. And it's actually the corners that you feel like you've gotten really good, better than normal. They seem to be the ones that are going to catch you out in this front engine car. And I think it's just that extra confidence that the understeer kind of gives you as you enter the corner. You feel like you've got everything nailed, but you're just right on that grip limit of the rear tyre. You put the throttle down and it's too much. It immediately lets go. A competitor here does exactly the same thing out of turn number 1 as seen previous, and that allows me up into 10th place though. So that made the last part of the race a bit of an experiment time for me, continually to learn this new tyre model and get some takeaways from these races. Now, I was certainly enjoying the feeling of the rotation on the trail braking on this new tyre model. Definitely a lot less steering input earlier in the turn, making sure you're coming off the brake before really putting the steering input in. And it was nice to feel that rotation in the car and not needing to induce it through those oversteering moments. Now, the downside of that though is when you did push a little bit too hard, you did immediately lose the rear of the car. And I think going forward, that's going to be one of the really critical elements of finding pace on Le Mans Ultimate. It'll be about how you work with that limitation of the rear tyre. The tyre does go away over a stint, how you manage the tyre, and pushing the limit won't be the same as it used to. It'll be a lot more conservative, and your best races are going to be the ones where you don't go over the limit, because it will create those spins and you will lose a lot of time in a lot of places as a result. For me on this one, despite it being very messy, we do get a top 10 finish, and we are actually going to get a nice overall result from these races, as even though I've lost 7 places and had multiple spins in this race, we gained safety rating, and for the first time I'm a silver safety rated driver. It's going to open some new options of racing for me on Le Mans Ultimate, and with this new tyre model I'm excited for the challenge that will bring.
So with the racing done, the question remains, is this tyre model update good or bad for Le Mans Ultimate players? Now personally, I really enjoyed the challenge. I was getting a lot of interesting feedback from the car through the wheelbase, and it was really enjoyable to feel the car change and try and extract pace through the stint. However, some of those feelings were very subtle, and I do have a more powerful wheelbase. I think the true test of if this tyre model will be good or bad for Le Mans Ultimate players is how it feels to those on less powerful equipment. If you're on something like a Logitech, are you getting those subtle feelings in the wheel that allow you to change your driving style and chase the tyre as it degrades through the stint? If not, this tyre model is going to feel pretty lethal. It's going to be very hard to judge where the limit is, and when you go over the limit, as you saw in my races, you very quickly have a race-altering incident. Of course, I would absolutely love to know your thoughts. Tell me, what equipment are you on? What are you feeling in the sim? Be really interested to know what you think. Right, and for part 2 of this video, I have just finished watching the new announcement from Le Mans Ultimate about its future. And I've got to admit, I was very impressed, very encouraged by what was announced. So let's break down those key announcements. First off, Le Mans Ultimate is going to be version 1.0 and remove that early access label on the 22nd of July. Now, I was really encouraged to hear this, and I've certainly struggled with how this platform has remained early access for nearly a year and a half. They themselves have admitted they can't hide behind that label for too much longer, so it's great to see that they're pushing to get the game cleaned up and get it 1.0 release in the next month and a half. Also on the 22nd of July, we will be getting the 2025 content for free. Yes, it will not be a DLC pack, it will be coming to the game at no cost, and it will include the Aston Martin Valkyrie and the GT3 Mercedes AMG car, as well as updates to all of the 2025 liveries. It's fantastic that not only are these cars coming within the 2025 season, but they're coming at no cost. And I personally think that's an awesome way for Le Mans Ultimate to basically thank its player base and the support that it got for those who purchased the 2024 season pass. And lastly, the major announcement, which probably isn't a surprise to most people, is the inclusion of the European Le Mans series to the Le Mans Ultimate platform at some point in the future. Now, ELMS incorporates not only a new car for the game, but a couple of new circuits. So we'll be getting an LMP3 car, as well as Barcelona and Silverstone as new circuits to the game. Now, circuits are certainly something the game needs more of, and these are 2 great circuits that will ultimately work really well with the hypercar and other prototype platforms as well. but the LMP3 car is a good addition, and it might help transition those into the prototypes, particularly those who have been sticking with GT3 up until this point. So overall, these are great announcements from Le Mans Ultimate. It'll be exciting to see how the game can be cleaned up before version 1.0, and it certainly sounds like the future of Le Mans Ultimate is a bit more secure, and I'm sure its player base will feel that way as well. Of course, let me know in the comments what you think of that announcement. What do you think overall about where the game is right now? Would love to hear your thoughts as always. But guys, race hard, stay positive, and we'll see you soon in another video. Cheers.